So we've all seen this sort of photo on our social media, two similar photos taken years apart, illustrating the passage of time. Same bike, same rider, years apart. Okay, so here's your original photo taken in 1989, and your new photo taken just recently. Same bike, same rider, 30 years apart. Okay, but what's the story? The first question needs to be, why was the original photo taken?
1989, I was studying a product design degree. As part of the degree, we were set a task to design a product that reflected the style of a celebrity. I chose to do a Mad Max inspired jacket, and it's the jacket that you can see illustrated in the photograph that we've looked at. It was part of my final presentation. It was showing the jacket in its context, which was obviously on a motorbike being worn.
It's hard to see from this angle, but what type of motorcycle is it in the photo?
Yes, you're right. I suppose the camera angle is depicting the jacket, not depicting the bike, because it's all about the jacket. The motorbike is a 1977 Kawasaki Z650 B1, which was the original Z650 model. Ironically, a lot of the parts are similar to the parts of the Kawasaki's, which I think were Z1000s, used in the original Mad Max film.
If the year's 1989, what would a young man want with a 12-year-old motorcycle, not a modern 1980s bike?
Yeah, you're right. That's probably a good question, isn't it? Perhaps Mad Max, perhaps watching the old Zs. I really love the Z9. I still do. It's a classic motorbike. I had, prior to the Z650, I had a GP-Z550. It was an absolutely lovely motorbike. It handled. It pulled like a train. It had a Yoshimura exhaust and it sounded fantastic. It had proper brakes. It was just a really nice bike, and I think I perceived that the Z650 was the same bike, albeit a bit older, but with a slightly bigger engine. So I bought it off my mate Big Rich. That's how it came about.
How did you feel when you first got on the bike? Was it love at first ride?
Short answer to your question is no, to be honest. At the time I had three bikes. I had an XT650 dirt bike, which was absolutely lovely. I took it to Turkey and went over the bridge into Asia. It is an absolutely lovely bike. I then had a 250 chopper. It was an XL 250 that I put an RS 250 engine and turned into a chopper. It was just a piece of fun, absolute fun. I took it to the TT races and drove around the TT course. Absolutely lovely. The Z, unfortunately, handled like a pig. The brakes, it was a single disc and the brakes were absolutely atrocious. It was just a dog of a bike. It really was a mess of a bike. It had had too many students who'd owned it and it was in a poor state.
So you've got three bikes, and the Z was your least favourite. What next?
Well, it's a well-travelled story. I graduated, I got married, had kids, put on weight, and neglected the motorbike. That's the honest truth of it. I'm not the first, and I won't be the last. As time progressed, I sold the XT600. I sold the chopper. Both decisions I regret. But for some reason I kept the Z. I put it away in the shed and I kept the Z. It sat in that shed for probably 15 years, in the damp, in the cold, next to the mower. It was time, therefore, to start getting my life in order. Firstly was myself. I lost 3-4 stones, ran a couple of marathons. Next, it was time to get the old Z out of the shed, have a look at what state it was, and give it a total restoration. From memory, it was only a top-end engine service, but it was all looked at properly. Finally, after the restoration, it was time to see if the bike was actually going to work.
24th of May 2011.
Okay, I just want to point something out here. Take a look at that seat. I think it's called a 2-4 Cafe Racer seat. I'll say no more now.
So you've slogged away, got it back up and running after all those years. Tell me about your first trip.
Yes, the first trip, rather naively, I decided to take my 13-year-old son on the back of the old Z and drive her down to Spain. I like to illustrate a journey using a map. Here he is. We started off in England, took the ferry across to France, drove through France, over the Pyrenees and into Spain. It was a trip full of adventures. On a personal level, simply riding with my son was an absolute dream, but the bike wasn't really ready for it. We hadn't had enough shakedown and it presented lots of problems. However, when you're broken down, that's when you're at the mercy of others. That's when you meet people, and that's when the adventure really starts. I'll show you some video and let you see what happened.
Hi, I'm Finn, a 13-year-old from Southampton, and this is our bike. So we are sat outside a petrol station. We've discovered that the fuse or something is wrong with the brakes, and the brake light won't work basically. So we found ourselves in a Dutch run bikers only campsite, and it was party night. We found some of the problem about our brake light. We're just wondering if the thing... just found another problem. Well, it's 35 years old. We are being filmed, and we are filming them. For telly. Yes. Oh, it's a Dutch television then.
Ik ben Renske, hey welkom. Hi. Dus jullie staan ook al?
Ja, we staan ook al.
Oké.
Volgens mij is de andere helft...
maar ik zie jullie nog.
Okay people, we are here at the side of the road.
You can see any spark here, mate.
Okay.
Look in between the two contacts, you should see a spark. Yeah, there's no spark there, is there?
No, there's no spark. I have came to a conclusion that motorbikes are the most uncomfortable things to sit on for over an hour. My posterior is hurting more than life itself. It hurts so much. I think there's a... Oh, brilliant. Thunder's just coming.
Here's the seat revisited. The 2-4 seat has a bulge, so what I did was I cut the bulge off to make it look like a flat seat, only I forgot I'd cut the bulge off. I put my son on the back, we drove off to Spain, and what I didn't realise was that his bottom was sat on the metal part of the 4-2 seat. Didn't explain that very well. Basically, it hurt his bottom big time. Now, I deliberated about the next set of footage. It's not actually bullfighting. What it is they're juvenile bulls, and the people in the bull ring are the local youths who pretend to be bullfighters. Clearly this footage was taken 10 years ago, and my attitudes and perhaps the world's attitudes have changed. But it's a historical piece, so I've decided to keep this footage in. The footage you've been watching in this section was from my very first YouTube video.
Yeah, I remember that seat for 6 hours a day, all the way to bloody Spain. So, following summer, where did you travel?
Okay, so now everybody's worked out that the narrator on this video is actually the 13-year-old son from the previous story. I thoroughly enjoyed France and I thoroughly enjoyed Spain, so I thought I'd return solo. I also was very keen to do the Eastern Pyrenees and to visit Andorra. Currently I'm in Andorra. This is one of my waypoints. Yesterday I drove 430 miles. To be fair, it was really hard work. Today I've just driven up the mountain into Andorra and it all seems worthwhile. During this trip I filmed what was to become one of my most successful YouTube videos. It was called The Idiot's Guide to Adventure Motorcycling. Hi, my name's Ian. What you're about to see is an idiot's guide to adventure motorcycling. Sit back and enjoy the ride. I'm on a little trip myself, and hopefully as I go down and do my journey I'll do a little bit of filming and put it together into a little bit of video. Okay, luggage. There's often a debate about luggage, whether to use hard luggage, whether to use soft luggage. The rules are, as far as I'm aware, to try and keep the weight.
Clearly you really bonded with the old Z and it was becoming more reliable. Tell me, did you travel further afield on your next adventure?
Yes, my next trip ended up going to Kerry in Southern Ireland. We left England, crossed Wales, took a ferry to Ireland, to Dublin from memory, and then drove across to the west coast and spent time playing in County Kerry. The Kerry trip resulted in a short video which again is available on YouTube. County Kerry in southwest Ireland has the longest coastline of any Irish county and boasts the highest mountain in the country. In the sunshine, it's a biker's paradise.
That ring of Kerry looks pretty nice, pretty scenic, but did you go anywhere else a bit more extravagant, let's say? Maybe a bit further?
Well, I'm not sure about extravagant, but my next trip was Land's End to John O'Groats. This is 875 miles. It represents the two furthest distance points on the UK mainland. And it's a classic route, and it's something that people have been doing for years and years and years. Let's have a look. I started off at Land's End in England. I did dip through Wales just because it's so beautiful, returning back to the north of England, then Scotland all the way up to John O'Groats, right at the top northeastern point. Didn't make a video of this trip for whatever reason, but I've got a couple of little bits of video which I'll put on in the background. It's worth noting I did this Land's End to John O'Groat trip in 2014. It was before the North Coast 500 was branded as an official route. We'd spent quite a long time up in the north of Scotland. It was quiet. I believe the North Coast 500 now means that it's very, very busy up there. But that's progress.
So obviously Land's End to John O'Groats is a nice famous one, you know, 900 plus miles from start to finish. But I feel the viewer really needs something, you know, with a bit more oomph. What have you got in store for us?
A little more oomph. How's this then, son? England, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and Norway on the way home. 9 countries. Is that enough oomph? This Scandinavian trip was not only the longest, but also the best trip I've ever been on. It's about the places you visit, but more importantly, the people you met. I met some absolutely lovely people on this trip and had a fantastic time. The video, the YouTube video for it's nearly 50 minutes long. I can't do it justice in a 30-second little clip like this. I'll put up a tiny bit, but if you're interested, you need to watch the video because it was a phenomenal trip. I was delighted that in 2021 my Finland trip video was selected for the Black Hills Moto Film Festival.
9 countries on a 40-plus-year-old bike that you serviced yourself. How did you cap the Finland trip? What's your next plan?
I took all my previous trips and placed them on the map and coloured it in. Therefore, to answer your question, perhaps the next places I need to visit are either Iceland, Northern Ireland, Luxembourg or Portugal. And finally, this video is dedicated to anyone who has kept a vehicle for over 30 years and still enjoys using it. I salute you.